When I got married, something inside of me was like, wow, I don't have to diet anymore. I don't have to worry what I look like. He loves me. He loves me for me. I can look however I want to and do whatever I want. I could eat.
Julia Havey says she ate her way right into a troubled marriage. Nightly big bowls of ice cream helped her gain 160 pounds over 7 years. When she hit 290 pounds, she knew she wasn't a pretty sight, but she tried to ignore it.
You convince yourself that you don't care. I mean, you do care. But when you've tried this diet and that diet, and you've read this book, and you've bought these pills, and I bought vacuum pants. I bought rubber pants that you put on that you're supposed to run in place hooked to the vacuum cleaner. When none of that works for you, you can't keep focusing on the fact you weigh 290 pounds because you'll drive yourself insane.
Julia battled her weight long before she got married. Her ice cream habit started when she was a little girl.
When I was a child, my father was in Vietnam, and my mother would wake me up when she'd be watching the late-night news reports about what cities had been bombed and what was going on, and she wanted someone up with her when she was watching it, so she'd wake me up for a midnight snack. And I would always have a bowl of ice cream or have a bowl of cereal and watch the news with her. And that really set into motion my late-night eating, which was a problem for me my whole adult life.
It was a problem that eventually jeopardized her career as a flight attendant.
When I was a flight attendant, we had little navy blue skirts that were our uniform. And when my skirt would get too tight, I would get called in to the supervisor's office and get put on the scale. I felt like a cow getting weighed before going to the slaughter.
Julia sometimes went to extremes to reach the 125 pounds the airline wanted her to weigh.
There were times when she would have a broken blood vessel in her eye, and she would tell me, she didn't hide it, that she would have to purge before a weight check.
Julia rode a diet roller coaster, bouncing between 125 and 175 pounds. It was while she was temporarily out of work during an airline strike that Julia found love.
I actually stayed on strike for about a week, and I was out at a local bar, and I met a bunch of people that were talking about the strike and saying how horrible it was, and that, you know, I couldn't go back to work and couldn't cross a picket line. And I met a guy that was a union person and talking me out of going to work.
8 months later, the two were married. Julia was a trim 130 pounds.
I wanted to be a bride. I wanted the wedding. I wanted the white dress. I wanted my father in his military tuxedo to walk me down the aisle. But again, like most things in life, I didn't think it through and think the big picture. I thought the moment.
In the beginning, their marriage was okay. I think she was thrilled to be married and have a husband and starting their life together.
I used to be a very party girl, social girl, and do my hair and do my makeup and always have the newest, neatest, coolest, hippest clothes. And when I got married, I honestly became a 50s sitcom housewife. And I was getting this nice, matronly, womanly figure. And I was quite comfortable with it. I was totally fine with it. But the airline wasn't. They kept calling me in, you know, weight check, you're getting up there on the scale, and my weight was slowly increasing.
Just when she was afraid the airline would suspend her for being 175 pounds, Mother Nature stepped in. Julia discovered she was pregnant.
It was such a wonderful thing to be able to walk in and bring a note from my doctor going, I'm pregnant, right when I was going to have to step on the scale because they couldn't weigh me then.
Julia gained 85 pounds during her pregnancy, jumping from 175 pounds to 260. She didn't slim down after her daughter Taylor was born. She packed on the pounds, one scoop of ice cream at a time.
I would write checks for it and honestly bounce checks to this ice cream store to get my ice cream. Did I have any remorse bouncing checks to get my ice cream? Absolutely not. I wanted my ice cream. I didn't care.
Soon, little else mattered but food, not even sex with her husband.
I think I was probably a fairly sexual person before, and when my body looked like that, I really wasn't interested in anybody seeing me without clothes on. I just hated the way my body looked, and it definitely changed my relationship for the worse.
Despite her difficulties with intimacy, Julia and her husband had a son. A year later, the 32-year-old Julia weighed 290 pounds, and her ice cream habit was still going strong.
I came home from work one day, and I was going to the Bills. I'd stopped by the ice cream shop, got my ice cream. It was a good day. I left work early, had my ice cream. And then I saw another letter. It was addressed to me, and it didn't have a return address. And I opened up the letter, and it told me that to follow my husband next time he left the house because he was heading somewhere he shouldn't have been.
She called me that day crying, very upset, understandably. And I went over to be with her. She told me that she had received this letter, that the next time her husband goes to this neighboring town, she should follow him. And he's having an affair.
It was a life-altering moment. It opened up my eyes clearly. I couldn't deny anymore. I couldn't rationalize the pain of my life away.
Julia says her husband denied the affair, but it gave her the reality check she needed. She threw the rest of the ice cream away and vowed to never touch it again.
I put the ice cream bowl in the sink, and about a day later I came back to it, and it was still in the sink, still in the bowl, but it was like this foamy, frothy, gross-looking pile of just garbage. And I looked at it, I'm like, ew. I mean, that was my initial response, and then I kind of looked at my thighs, I'm like, ew, and it looked kind of the same, you know, big, fluffy, frothy, gross mess.
Still, it took one more jolt to get Julia to completely swear off sweets. It happened when she went to a gas station to buy some candy.
I went walking up to the window to buy my candy bar, and there was a homeless guy sitting against the side of the gas station. And he looked at me and he said, "Girl, you got too much food in you." I was so humiliated and so embarrassed. Everyone that was around that gas station started cracking up and laughing at me.
They were laughing, but Julia wasn't. There was nothing funny about her 290 pounds. It was time to put aside the sweets once and for all. Julia writes a new chapter in her own life while helping others turn over a new leaf.
It has been such an honor and a privilege to me that people love the book. My love affair with ice cream was something that went on a long time. I mean, I can remember my children, wanting some of my ice cream and be like, the Exorcist woman is Mommy's ice cream. You can't have it.
32-year-old Julia Havey loved ice cream so much that she ballooned up to 290 pounds eating it. Addicted to sweets, Julia tried to ignore what was happening until a homeless man forced her to see the plain truth.
He made an observation. He said I had too much food in me. And it was like a light bulb moment going off in my head. I'm like, wow, too much food in me.
Today, Julia no longer has too much food in her. She lost 130 pounds in 15 months. She dropped from 290 pounds to 160. She did it by creating her own eating plan, which included rewards for good behavior.
Getting rid of the ice cream in my life was the first step that I did in my weight loss. I told myself, you can do it. You can go a week and not eat ice cream. And if you do it, you can get your nails done. You can go get a manicure. So I replaced what I had loved so much as the ice cream with things that made me feel even better.
A trip to the grocery store is no longer an excuse to load up on ice cream. Today, Julia shops smarter.
Nothing like fresh fruit. It is the best.
Julia also loads up on fresh vegetables and lean meats.
Too much fat. It's not going in my card.
Eating healthy gives Julia the stamina she needs to get through her workout. It's a tough but intense exercise regime. Surprisingly, she only works